It's just past 5 p.m. across India and live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Good afternoon, Ollie.
Good afternoon, Tanvi. It's 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Washington slams attempts to secure an arrest warrant for Israel's PM. Billions of dollars in compensation in an infected blood scandal in Britain. And an international AI deal reached in South Korea. First, the headlines.
Thousands mourn the death of Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi on the first day of funeral in Tabriz. Commenting on the helicopter crash, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says US sanctions have worsened aviation safety. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologises on behalf of successive governments for the failure of the infected blood scandal, says it was a day of shame for the British state. And Phase 5 of India's parliamentary election sees over 60% polling. Baramulla in Jammu and Kashmir records its highest voter turnout in 35 years. So up first, news from Iran. The funeral ceremonies for Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi and those who died with him in the helicopter crash on Sunday are underway. The mortal remains of the Iranian president, foreign minister and others were taken to Tabriz, the capital of Iran's East Azerbaijan province. Tens of thousands of mourners were seen carrying posters of the president. While following this funeral procession, the final burial for President Raisi will be on Thursday. Iran has declared 5 days of mourning in memory of those who were killed in the crash.
External danger has always brought the people to their knees. People have always been united against external danger throughout the history.
May their souls rest in peace. The nation is able to deal with this issue and everything will return to normal thanks to God. External dangers is a funny subject. They cannot happen because we live in a country whose strength is unity. They can never divide us. We are united.
The Iranian government on Monday announced an investigation into the cause of the helicopter crash that killed Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi. DD India's Stuart Smith tells us more from Baghdad.
Well, there was a suggestion that Russia could help with that investigation. It has a lot of experience, but it looks like this will be purely conducted by Iranian authorities. The chief of the general staff of the Iranian military initiated an investigation earlier in the week, and they'll be looking at, of course, what caused the helicopter to crash after initial assessments blamed the poor weather conditions, dense fog, incredibly poor visibility, freezing temperatures, and also this was flying over a mountainous forested region of Iran. Very difficult conditions to fly a helicopter, but they'll also be looking as to the sequence of events. For example, Turkey says because Iran is in its emergency zone, it's obliged to respond if an accident happens in Iran because they border each other. It was looking out for this helicopter and they didn't see a GPS signal from that helicopter. One of the lines of inquiry will be why. Is it because the helicopter didn't have the right equipment or because it was turned off? And further further to that, whether the helicopter didn't have the right equipment because of US sanctions, something a former foreign minister has said makes the US partly to blame in this crash, because the aviation industry in Iran has struggled for 40 years without access to the most modern aviation equipment.
Commenting on the helicopter crash that killed Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Tuesday that US sanctions had worsened aviation safety.
By implementing the sanctions that include ban on supplies of service parts for the United States-made aviation products, they put people's lives at risk. The Americans disown that, but actually other countries under sanctions do not receive service parts for US-made hardware, including aviation.
Соединенные Штаты объявляют санкции, не поступают.
Now, India is observing a one-day state mourning as a mark of respect to Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian. The Indian national flag is at half-mast on all government buildings where it is customarily displayed. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar expressed his condolences towards the tragic passing away of Iranian President. The External Affairs Minister visited the Embassy of Iran in New Delhi today. He also conveyed his condolences on the death of his Iranian counterpart Hossein Amir-Abdollahian. Taking to social media platform X, Jaishankar said that the leaders will always be remembered as friends of India who have contributed immensely to the growth of India-Iran relationship. He also said that the government of India stands in solidarity with the people of Iran at this very difficult time. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has described a request by the International Criminal Court (ICC) prosecutor for arrest warrants against him and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a disgraceful bid to interfere in the country's conflict with Hamas. Gallant said that prosecutor Karim Khan was trying to deny Israel the right to self-defense and to free its hostages. Khan has accused Israel of violating international laws during its conflict with Hamas. Earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed the ICC prosecutor's move and added that the decision was meant to target all of Israel.
You have to hear this to believe this. The International Criminal Court in The Hague is contemplating issuing arrest warrants against senior Israeli government and military officials as war criminals. This would be an outrage of historic proportions. International bodies like the ICC arose in the wake of the Holocaust committed against the Jewish people. They were set up to prevent such horrors, to prevent future genocides.
US President Joe Biden has also rejected ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders, saying that there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection. But let me be clear. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that. We're going to always stand with Israel and the threats against its security.
So this news of ICC warrants against Israel has garnered widespread condemnation also from the United Kingdom. My colleague Ollie Barrett takes it forward from me here and gives us more on this and other news making headlines around the world. Clearly, Ollie, this conflict falling under a complex international system of justice that has emerged since the Second World War.
That's right, Tanvi, and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has made his views very clear as well. He's calling the ICC's move deeply unhelpful, insisting that it won't lead to a pause in fighting or the release of hostages.
Well, this is a deeply unhelpful development. Of course, it's still subject to a final decision, but it remains deeply unhelpful nonetheless. There is no moral equivalence between a democratic state exercising its lawful right to self-defense and the terrorist group Hamas.
Now, Russia says it's curious that the United States appears ready to use sanctions against the International Criminal Court, whose prosecutor requested those arrest warrants. The Kremlin added that it does not recognize the ICC's jurisdiction itself, as it was not a party to the Rome Statute, which established the court. In 2023, the ICC issued warrants for the arrest of President Vladimir Putin over the Ukraine conflict.
As you know, we are not the parties to the relevant statute, therefore we do not recognize the jurisdiction of the court. That's the first thing. In general, the situation is more than curious in terms of the US attitude and willingness to use sanctions method even against the ICC.
Well, DD India's Sarah Coates joins us live now for more from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what has the reaction been in Israel to the attempts to secure those arrest warrants?
Hello there, Ollie. Reactions just keep coming in. What the Israelis are really seeing this is an attack against everyone in the country. Now, as we go to air, meetings are happening here in Tel Aviv with senior Israeli officials and also law teams. They're trying to work out how to get a grip on this situation going forward. Now, I'll bring you some of Netanyahu's reaction. That's the Israeli Prime Minister. He says that this is a complete distortion of reality and is aimed against the entire state of Israel, calling it scandalous, saying yesterday during a Likud faction meeting, "Nothing will stop us and nothing will stop me." Now, Israel's Foreign Minister, Israel Katz, he's calling this an unrestrained attack against all of the victims of October 7 and the hostages, the 124 Israeli captives that are still being held in the Gaza Strip. Now, he has instructed the Foreign Ministry to open a situation room to deal with this going forward. Now, Israel is really leaning on its closest ally, the United States. We heard those comments there from Joe Biden. We've also heard comments coming out from the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. He believes that this now may put these potential hostage and ceasefire talks in jeopardy. So certainly a lot of anger happening or being felt around Israel in the wake of this announcement by Khan. Ollie.
Okay, and Sarah, what is the latest on the conflict itself?
Well, certainly heavy fighting is continuing right across the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military says that over the past 24 hours, it has hit some 70 targets belonging to Hamas. These are things like weapons storage facilities and also rocket launchers. Now, we do know that there's heavy fighting going on in the north. This is in and around the Jabalia refugee camp. Also in the center of the strip, this is the Netzarim corridor, a man-made road by the IDF which separates the north and the south, and of course also down in this southern region of Rafah, where we do need to remember it was designated as a humanitarian zone up until fairly recently. Now, the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, he actually came out yesterday to say that this operation in Rafah will be expanded, and this of course is of great concern given the sheer amount of people that are sheltering there. According to the United Nations, more than 800,000 people have now fled, but we do know that there are still nearly 500,000 people seeking shelter there, although Palestinians on the ground, Ollie, say there is simply no place safe to go. And just very briefly, there's also an ongoing raid happening right now in the West Bank, in the city of Jenin, with the Palestinian Red Crescent saying at least 7 Palestinians have been killed in what the IDF is calling a counter-terror operation. Ollie.
Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv, thank you. Now, Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majed Al-Ansari says the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release talks between Israel and Hamas remain close to a stalemate. On the ICC prosecutor's decision to seek arrest warrants against some Israeli and Hamas leaders, Al-Ansari said it was too early for Qatar to comment directly, but said that all states and organizations should be held responsible for the killing of civilians. The UK government is setting out, as we speak, multi-billion-dollar compensation plans after an infected blood scandal. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologised on behalf of successive governments for the failure, which has seen roughly 3,000 deaths so far.
This is a day of shame for the British state. Today's report shows a decades-long moral failure at the heart of our national life. From the National Health Service to the Civil Service, to ministers in successive governments, at every level, the people and institutions in which we place our trust failed in the most harrowing and devastating way.
A report by the Infected Blood Inquiry says that doctors, the country's National Health Service and the government were to blame for patients catching HIV and hepatitis C while receiving care in the 1970s, 1980s and early 1990s. Now, 16 companies involved in artificial intelligence, including Alphabet's Google, as well as companies from China, South Korea and the United Arab Emirates, have committed to safe AI development. This as South Korea and Britain co-host a global AI summit in Seoul. The companies are pledging to publish safety frameworks on how they'll measure the risks of frontier AI models, and they've committed not to develop or deploy AI models if the risks can't be sufficiently mitigated. And we can go live to DD India's John Beaver, who's joining me for more on this summit now. John, the UK is hailing what it says is a significant agreement at the summit.
Yes, absolutely. As you mentioned, this expanded list of companies who have signed up to develop AI safely, 16 global companies now involved, and these really are the giants of the industry. We have companies, like you mentioned, such as Google, but also Microsoft and OpenAI, all pledging to develop AI safely. Also, the UK government very keen to point out that a Chinese AI company is involved as well. They're highlighting that as significant because, of course, you need some global agreement on the best way to regulate AI to try and mitigate any dangers there might be. Balancing safety versus progress is how a lot of the AI experts are currently weighing up this effort to try and regulate the industry. We've seen AI assistants being unveiled over the last days and weeks, and so there's always a concern that any regulation will fail to keep up with the rapid pace of change in this industry. The UK is really attempting to position itself as a world leader in AI. I was at the AI summit in Bletchley Park back in November, where a framework was announced to test these AI models, and the summit in South Korea is really building on that. There is, of course, a lot of concern about the misuse of this technology by what they call bad actors for things such as trying to influence elections. So certainly the UK government and the South Korean government very keen to say that progress has been made when it comes to regulating AI.
John, thank you. Lots of work going on internationally on AI and the possible regulation of it, Tanvi. Difficult issues to get on top of. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining us all from London. Still to come on DD India Global. A Singapore Airlines flight makes an emergency landing in Bangkok. 1 person confirmed dead, 30 injuries reported. And Elvis Presley's personal Holy Bible is one of the many rare items that are up for sale at a forthcoming auction.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This this election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DT India.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. I am Tanvita Nija and you're watching DD India Global. On to Africa now. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma has been barred from running for parliament in this month's election. The country's constitutional court gave the ruling on Monday, citing a South African law that disqualifies people who have been convicted of a crime from running for the president's post. Zuma was jailed for contempt in 2021 after failing to attend a corruption inquiry. DD India's Daniel Kijo has sent us this report.
Yeah, these elections are extremely important to South Africa's political environment because it could affect, like you said, ANC's 30-year reigns. The polls are showing that ANC faces resistance from these other parties because they've been unsatisfied with the ANC's performance. Issues around energy, like the chronic load shedding, water crisis in cities like Durban, crime, etc. So these elections are really important for the people of South Africa. Now, the elections will depend on President Zuma's what he will do over the next few days because he holds a lot of influence from his MK party and the KwaZulu-Natal province, which holds a significant portion of the National Assembly, which because the MK party has about 41 seats there compared to a place like Gauteng, which has about 48 provincial seats. He does have unique power to be able to upset the apple cart in terms of being able to affect the king-making process, whether he has a seat in parliament or not. This is because he is the face of the MK party, and in rallies over the last few weeks, about 37,000 people showed up in support of his energy and his history. And indeed, a riot is very possible because it has happened in the past. In 2018, during his sentencing, about 300 people died. There were acts of violence and looting. So as these parties head towards a final campaigning this weekend, it remains to be seen really how former President Jacob Zuma chooses to handle these next 72 hours or so.
Next, the latest on the world's largest democratic elections underway in India. So last two phases of India's elections are left now, and the temple town of Puri is all decked up for the grand festival of democracy. The constituency goes to vote on 25th of May. The seat is considered one of the most prestigious ones in the state of Odisha. Lord Jagannath Temple attracts millions of devotees from around the nation every year. The election campaign of major parties remains focused on two issues related to the temple. DD India's Ravi Dhiman finds out.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a massive roadshow in Odisha's Puri town. Prime Minister also visited the Lord Jagannath Temple. PM also met the temple servitors and promised solution to the lost keys of the temple treasury. Later in the public meetings in the state, Prime Minister targeted the Biju Janata Dal-led state government on the issue of mysterious disappearance of the keys to the Ratna Bhandar or the jewel store of the temple.
बीजेडी सरकार में जगन्नाथ जी का मंदिर भी सुरक्षित नहीं बचा है। पिछले 6 साल से श्री रत्न भंडार की चाबी का अता पता नहीं है।
In April 2018, the state government made an attempt to open the Ratna Bhandar situated near the sanctorum of the temple, but the keys could not be found. The treasury of the temple contains the gold and jewelries offered by devotees across the world through the years. The state government then ordered a judicial inquiry, and the report was also submitted in November 2018. The report has not yet been made public by the state government. BJD on its part is trying to downplay the entire issue, and its leaders are saying that Ratna Bhandar will be opened during the Rath Yatra scheduled in few months' time. The BJD is trying to showcase the much touted Puri Parikrama project as an excellent achievement. One section of the corridor project around the Lord Jagannath temple was inaugurated earlier this year.
You are asking Puri specific question. There are 3-4 things. One is, yes, this Parikrama, because everything revolves around the temple here. Everyone's, whether it's tourism, whether it is people's livelihood, everything, and their lifestyles, everything is temple centric here.
Puri, one of 4 Char Dham sites for the Hindus, goes to poll in the 6th phase on 25th of May. The seat has been a Biju Janata Dal bastion since past many elections, with the party's nominees winning it by huge margins, except in 2019 when the BJP managed to considerably reduce the lead. Now the temple town is agog with a political slugfest between the two major parties, BJP and BJD, on issues revolving around the most important landmark of not only the town but the entire state.
Be it the issue of the temple corridor project, for which the state government of the BJD is trying to take all the credit, or the mysterious case of missing keys of the Ratna Bhandar, it is beyond doubt that this electoral season, the Lord Jagannath temple and the issues associated with it have taken center stage in politics. With camera person Sanjay Jaina in Puri, Ravi Dhiman for DD India.
And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. A 4.4 magnitude seismic storm hit Italy's Campi Flegrei, forcing residents to spend night in tents. Starting on Monday evening, the storm continued throughout the night. Campi Flegrei is a crater-shaped volcano with over 360,000 people residing around it. A Singapore Airlines flight, Boeing 777-300, made an emergency landing in Bangkok due to severe turbulence. So far, 30 people have been reported injured, with 1 confirmed death. The flight was en route to Singapore from London with 211 passengers and 18 crew members on board. Further details are awaited. And if you're an Elvis Presley fan, this news might be of interest to you. Elvis Presley's personal Bible, along with few of his other belongings, are set for an upcoming auction organized by Cruise GWS Auctions. Themed Hilton Estate and Elvis Presley artifacts, live bidding for the auction will begin on Saturday at 1400 hours GMT. The auction will also include dresses worn by singer-songwriters Taylor Swift and Amy Winehouse. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And also you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.